Go live. Counting down 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. With another Sports Refuge live stream. And of course, this is the first of 3 live streams going on for our NFL playoff preview that we're hoping to get done, especially well before the start of playoffs beginning and now January, especially with the extra week and so many teams in the fight. But of course, the first team we're going to talk about, a lot of people know in NFL history, they're considered Titletown USA. And, this is going to be very interesting to see how things are going to shake out in the NFC, especially it looks like the North is a bit of a cakewalk right now. And I think that my guest would definitely not dispute that. As a Green Bay Packers fan, Hunter Quinn is here to talk about the Pack and seeing how things are going. Hunter, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk about the Packers and especially their playoff chances. It looks like their chances are pretty good, but their postseason chances as well. Thank you for coming on the show.
Of course, man. Pleasure being with you.
Oh, no, I really appreciate it. Now, starting off, we always ask people this. How long have you been a Packers fan? What drew them to you?
Birth, basically. I grew up in Milwaukee, and I lived through the Lindy Infante and Don Makowski era and all of that when I was young, and somehow I made it through. And then, Brett Favre was the quarterback when I was 11, I want to say. Started as I was 11, and obviously they've been overwhelmingly successful in the last 30 years or so, and so it's been it's not too difficult to be a Packer fan. Of course, I've lived all over the country and lived near Washington fans and Seattle fans and 49er fans, and now I'm living in the arch nemesis of the Packers. I live in Minneapolis, so it's good to be a Packer fan. It has always been, and the level of success that they've had of being an elite team in the NFL over the last 25 to 30 years has really been great. It's just a matter of putting everything together and making it and winning a Super Bowl every, hopefully more regularly than every 15 years or so.
Definitely, I can understand that. Going back to all those memories, as you said, you've been a long-time fan of the Packers. What is your most memorable Packers moment?
I think I was 15 when they won the 97 Super Bowl against the Patriots. And I remember that just being just mind-blowing to me, just because it had been a long time coming. And, it was the culmination of everything that, a lot of close calls. And then, the excellency that was Brett Favre, it just kind of all came together, and they beat the Patriots before the Patriots were, Tom Brady's Patriots, which is really kind of interesting because that was, that was just before he started. So, that was I remember being at a buddy's house, and we were doing, I had no idea what, doing squares was, but I think I ended up winning a cheese head that night as part of the Super Bowl. So it was all around very good day for Packer fans and for me too. So
going into the season, what were the expectations? I know last season's playoff loss and then all the turmoil about Aaron Rodgers, whether he was going to come back, whether LaFleur was going to improve his coaching and really listen more to Aaron Rodgers, and as well as whether the front office was going to stay intact, because it seems like, unfortunately, Aaron Rodgers, people will say, might have been sort of strong arming them to make a change in the front office.
Yeah, I think that over the last, throughout the Brett Favre era and throughout the Aaron Rodgers era, with little exception, I think the expectation is always to get to the NFC Championship game and lose. I think that that's pretty much what our expectations are. Every year, Vegas has us as a top 2 or 3 odds to win the Super Bowl, and so us as Packer fans, we just kind of expect that level of success, and we usually get our hearts broken sometime in January. You look at the knock on the Packers is you've had 2 of the top 10 quarterbacks, top 15 quarterbacks of all time, and you've got 2 trophies to show for it. So I think that's what every Packer fan thinks going into every season, is they're going to have a great level of success. The North has not been very competitive over the last 10 to 15 years, and with a few exceptions, they've won the division. But I think that with everything that's happened on during the offseason, I think that there's a certain amount of people taking sides, whether you're with the Packers, you're with Aaron Rodgers, what's going to happen, and then they lose 38-3 opening weekend against the Saints. And you're thinking, I heard everything, and I saw everything on social media as, Rodgers is tanking, or his heart's not in it. And now they're 9-3, and they're a lock for the playoffs. They're 98% to win the division. And right now, if you go to 538.com, it's an odds website for everything from sports to politics. They have a 17% chance of winning the Super Bowl, which is the highest among any team. So, when Aaron says relax, and when Aaron says it's just one game, you kind of got to give it to him. And I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen at the end of the season. I think that's going to be dictated by their levels of success in the playoffs. And I don't know who's really going to be in control. I think, Aaron's going to do what he wants to do. And I think that hopefully management will show that they're interested in, making the moves to make this an elite team, and for Aaron to have some tools around him. And, I'd like to think that when you have Devontae Adams and Valdez-Scantling and Aaron Jones around you, I think that would be enough. And obviously the defense has really shown up and done really well this year, being one of the top rush defenses and overall defenses in the league. So if you're Aaron Rodgers and you're like, put some more tools around me, and the Packers have to say, like, well, this is what you've got. You've got a great defense on the other side of the ball, and then you've got some weapons. Certainly Devontae Adams is, top 2, 3, if not the number 1 receiver in the league. So, whatever happens at the end of the year, I think that's the big mystery for every Packer fan right now.
Was there a point in the season you were very optimistic that Green Bay was not only going to repeat winning the North, but heading back to the playoffs again?
I think when you beat Arizona, I think that's and take away and on the road as well. I think that was a huge statement game. And I think that, I'm hoping that it comes down to those two, and the game is in Green Bay, and I hope that's the NFC Championship game. Tom Brady's going to have his say, and Dak Prescott might have his say. And, like you said, there's 7 teams now out of 16, and you might have a 8-9 Vikings team make the playoffs and, get through just like the Giants did a couple years ago. You've got some parity in the NFC and the AFC. Really, I don't really know if you can tell who's a complete team and who's got the all the pieces to make this work. I think you've seen some really good things out of the Packers, the Cardinals, the Buccaneers, but then they've all lost to mediocre teams. I mean, Tampa Bay loses to Washington. Packers lose to Minnesota. And then you've got the big question marks in Arizona. You've got, is Kyler Murray okay? Is DeAndre Hopkins coming back? You've got a lot to think about when you want to, pick an NFC champion. And it's basically the same thing in the AFC. Everybody thought 2 weeks ago, was it, that everybody thought that the Tennessee Titans were the number one seed and we're going to sort of clear path to the playoffs. And they have one of the worst divisions in football. And then they looked terrible the last couple of weeks. And they got beat by New England. And New England has a second-year quarterback. Like, what, how much do you expect out of Mac Jones? Or is he a rookie?
He's a rookie.
He's a rookie. Like, how much can you expect out of Mac Jones? He's got Belichick, but I think that there's a lot to be exposed for a rookie quarterback. The kid's won 6 games in a row. Like, you can't take that away from him. But also, of the wins that they have very few, quality wins against quality opponents. Other than the Tennessee game, which again, they seem like they're going to end up at 10-7, not 13-3 or whatever. It's definitely turned around for them, and it's not in a good way. Meanwhile, Patriots look good, and the Chargers looked good for a little while, and you don't really know what to think about the Bills anymore. I thought the Bills were going to. I thought the Bills were going to be 15-2, and it was the AFC was theirs to lose, but now they're in the middle of the pack, and they may not have a home game in the playoffs. So there's a lot of parity, which makes it really interesting, and it makes it kind of a wide open situation where nobody's really raising their hand as the number one seed, and my Packers are included. They kind of laid an egg against the Vikings. So that being said, it's going to be an exciting December and January. That's for sure.
Was the season opener the game that made you worry about how successful the Packers would be?
I think I was on the side of it's only one game. I think that one of the main things that's broken about the NFL is the preseason and how they how teams treat the preseason. I think that when you don't have Aaron Rodgers playing much at all during the preseason, I don't think he played at all. There's a lot to get back and get used to, and a drubbing like 38-3 against a Saints team that now looks very mediocre. It was probably a little bit of a wake-up call, Rodgers said it was just one game. LaFleur thinks like, okay, this is a bit more serious. You had PTI and ESPN and people saying, well, what's really wrong and what's happening? And, the sky is falling in Green Bay. But at the same time, like, I don't know, we're so used to having one of those kind of moments early in the season with the Packers over the last several years that Aaron says, relax. Some of us relax. Some of us still are gritting our teeth and clenching our fists. But obviously, they're in a really good position right now. And I think that game was more of a wake-up call. And honestly, it felt like it was the 4th week of preseason where you didn't have everybody together, and you didn't have a complete game, that's for sure.
Looking at the playoff matchups in the NFC, who do you feel the Packers match up the best with?
Well, I don't think I mind playing anybody. I don't really have a problem playing anybody. It's just, I think that you saw with Minnesota, I think that's an air attack that I think Kirk Cousins is underrated and underappreciated for sure in this town. And if he's got, KJ Osborne and Jefferson and Adam Thielen, man, that's tough to stop no matter who you got. And I don't, who knows what's going to happen with Dalvin Cook, but it didn't look good getting Cart off the field. He might be done for the season. He might be done for 2 weeks. Who knows? But I think that air attack and that offense can really put some points on the board. And that's what worries me. I think that you know, obviously you can never look past Tom Brady and his core of receivers. I think that, you know, Arizona is a really good team, and you look at the offense and the defense, both of them they've done what, you know, the GM's dream of being able to do in the offseason, and getting people like Hopkins and Watt, and just going out and grabbing people. And the same thing with the Rams. I think the Rams have done that great job of staffing up and getting some huge players. But then again, they're 0-3 since they got Von Miller. I mean, I don't know. I think anybody with a really good offense attack, I think Tampa's a really good example of when they put it all together, they can have, you know, they can score 40 and not blink an eye, and you're all of a sudden you're looking around thinking what happened. So I'm cautiously optimistic, thinking the Packers can make a deep run and potentially make it to the Super Bowl. But I'm also aware of the history, and I'm aware of, you know, having your hopes set very high like that. But, you know, it's kind of hard when there's a lot of things, a lot of factors leading you to believe that the Packers should be the favorite in the NFC.
Which of the teams in the NFC scares you the most as a Packers fan?
It's got to be Tampa. I mean, you can never count out Tom Brady. That's pretty much the beginning of the end of it. And he's got the amazing core of receivers, and he's got Gronk, and he's very comfortable. And I think that their defense is going to at least be challenging to the Packers if it comes down to Tampa and Green Bay. And I think there's a really good chance it does.
Before we get to our prediction, one thing I wanted to ask you is that looking at Joe Barry, defensive coordinator, me as a Washington football team fan, a lot of fans saw him as a very mediocre guy. Of course, son-in-law of Rod Marinelli was one of those guys on that awful Lions team.
Which awful Lions team?
The winless, the previous winless Lions team, as we look at it. What is it about what Joe Barry does compared to his reputation when you saw that the Packers decided to opt for him instead of, you know, letting Dom Capers go and things like that? Yeah. What led you to that? Really, what have you seen that he does well, and what has surprised you?
I think that the focus on the front seven was a big deal. I think that they have drafted really well, and they've also been able to put together a couple of pieces. But their secondary on paper should be fantastic. I mean, it should be locked down. But there's been a couple injuries and that kind of thing that has led them to having an issue. But clearly Joe has done something that Dom couldn't, because the defense has been our Achilles heel for the last several years. And now to suddenly have this huge turnaround without a ton of turnover on the field, you've got, you got to hand it to the coaching staff. And I think that they've done a really good job of handling what they have, and not having to go make a big splashy move in the middle of the season. So I think he's obvious, a lot of the credit is due to him. And I think he'll be up for, not only, a coordinator of the year kind of an award, but there's bound to be a handful of coaching gigs open, and, that might be something that he gets calls about. So, I mean, Chicago's going to be looking for one. Minnesota might be looking for one. And, why not go within your own division and find somebody close? So it's a possibility. I don't know if he's ready for that. That's a quick rise, but, anything can happen.
Yeah, especially after two previous questionable stops. Is it like the pitcher that had all those years struggling and finally puts it together? Is it legit, or is it just a walk here? You never know. But as we start going towards the Super Bowl prediction, who do you have coming out of the NFC? Who do you have coming out of the AFC? What will be the final score of the Super Bowl, and who is the winner?
When we did the baseball playoff conversation, I went with the home team, and that backfired pretty miserably. So I'm not going to pick the Packers. But I do think, and this is what all the conspiracy theorists and what everybody kind of wants to see. I mean, you got Tampa Bay with Tom Brady. You got all of a sudden New England is the potentially the golden child with Mac Jones. I think you've got what is set up to be a really, really good story for media and for the NFL, and Belichick versus Brady. I mean, it's everything that they want it to be. And I think that, there's a chance. I think that there's a really decent chance that those two teams end up in the Super Bowl. And I would say that Brady will probably come out on top. If you want to score, he's probably gonna throw 3 touchdowns. So I'd say 27-20. Buccaneers.
That's going to be interesting to see how that
I'll
turns
write
out.
that down somewhere so I'm going to put $10 on that in Vegas and see what happens. 27-20 Buccaneers over the Patriots. Mark it down.
As we start to wrap this up, what are ways people can reach out to you to talk Packers football? And do you have any shout outs that you want to give as well? And anything else you want to promote?
I'm on Instagram and on Twitter at DJ Hunter Quinn. That's my day job is doing music radio. But I also Mike Wickett does a great podcast, and he also writes really well. He's actually in Des Moines, but he does a lot of Wicked on Wisconsin stuff. So he's great. And that's about it. It's just it's good to talk sports, and there's not a lot of people who love the Packers around here. There's a good culture of Packer fans around here, but I have to wear my green and gold very quietly.
Well, I really appreciate it, Hunter. Thank you so much. And what we'll do is we'll finish this conversation in the studio off air. And for everybody who's been watching, thank you for watching. And then coming up at 6 o'clock, we're going to be talking about, and I know there's probably going to be a lot of fans, everybody's going to be talking about them boys. Everybody's going to be talking about Dallas, and Quincy Peaker will be the one talking about Dallas with me. And then following that up at 7, we're going to go a little bit closer to home, talking a little bit of Baltimore Ravens football with Mike Brittingham. But for everybody who's been watching so far, and for my guest, Hunter Quinn, I am Earl Holland saying, see you guys at 6 o'clock.